Hi, welcome to a new Plug and Groove video. My name is John. Ooh, nice one. Skippy Cool. Hi, welcome. Hey, so I am back. We were at a show in Los Angeles showing Unify. We've been busy here preparing all sorts of stuff going on for Black Friday. Get ready for some fun stuff. And I wanted to do a video showing CC Writer because this is a new mind-blowing MIDI effect included with Unify 1.9. Why am I so excited about this? What makes this so cool? Synthesizers in software and in hardware, they have LFOs, which is something that is a repeatable phase. LFO just means a low frequency oscillator, which means a normal frequency oscillator playing at a high, fast pitch, you hear as a sound waveform. When it gets really, really slow, it becomes like you sitting there going up and down on the volume knob. Well, in most synthesizers, when you have an LFO, say you have this shape, I can use this shape now to program filter and the mix of effects or whatever I want. Sometimes you can have lots of different things using that same LFO, but they all have to have that same shape. They all have to do the same thing. Very few synthesizers, Vital being one of them, let you reinterpret it. Well, Unify can do that to every parameter that you assign. For example, I'm going to play here. This is a patch. You go up here and you type 1.9 in the standard library little patch browser key window right here. You will find a patch called CC Writer LifeCycles, and it sounds like this. Hear that? It's going between 4 different sounds. So you would think the LFO to do this would be really complex and you'd need 4 LFOs to do that. You don't. This is one LFO that's just doing a simple sawtooth from minimum value to maximum value. And then inside of this Unify layer, go to the knob that this is tied to. And if you look at the parameters to this, check this out. Every parameter has its own in and out curve that comes up and down in volume. So here's 4 different LFO shapes being driven from just one CC writer. It's a very, very weird concept. I accept it might take a minute for it to sink in, but I'll show you some other examples that will help. But listen, right? If I want this first one to keep playing for a while and I don't want it to go away, let me double click, give all these here. Now it's going to stay. Maybe I like that third sound and I want it to slowly fade in all the time so I can. We have a tricky thing with some of these that have multiple breakpoints, but it's there. Maybe I want it to fade out. Every parameter can have its own input-output shape, which just makes for some insane power without needing a lot of LFOs. One LFO, in one CC writer, I should say, is doing all of this to these parameters. And just by clicking in here and changing the parameters, you can change what it does. It's just nuts. Let me show you another example. Here is CC Writer 4-layer switcher. Let's just open this Unify layer. And you see it's cycling between the 4 different sounds. Right? We have a blue ARP that's triggering the note. So I'm just holding down a note. And then above that, talking to this Unify layer is the CC Writer. And there's the shape. It goes up, it comes down. And you can change the curve. And that will change how it is controlling those 4 layers when they come in and out. It's great. Isn't that cool? The other thing that's nuts, remember, because this is a unified layer and this is 4 different sounds, any one of these could be any plugin that I own. So I could go over here and I could say, give me Serum on this one. change any patch I want. And if I want him to be in there more, then if I want him to show up and stay longer, I could just double click. So truly, the world becomes your oyster. It's really, really fun. Let me show you a couple other examples, and then we're going to do some from scratch so you can see how to do this. Here is writing into a new world. This is really pretty. You hear effects popping up. There's 4 different CC writers. And if you go here to the knobs in this Unify layer, see what they're doing. And you can see the parameters over here changing. It's just really, really fun. So how do we do this? Let's say we want to do this to a patch for ourselves, right? And I want to make sure you really get this point down because this is so powerful. So go to Unify, click Init. Go over to the little yellow dot, click Creative CC Writer, okay? It's set to CC20, it's doing its thing. Go to the instrument and go over here and choose Unify from the Unify standard list of instruments. And from here, you can now surf through, I've got over 7,000 patches inside of Unify to play with. I could go to any library. I could go to the Diva library. Go to the knobs. If I right click on this knob and I assign it to CC20, boom. If you want to go over here and say Unify Arpeggiator Blue Arp, maybe click plus a couple times just to make some kind of a fun pattern show up. We're having fun. Oh, that'd be fun. So right click on that, say assign to CC20. Maybe resonance, assign that to CC20. So I got 3 things changing to CC20. Maybe I want to have a different sound, do something different. So let's go to a different library, like maybe Cloud City. Let's get a BPM patch, like a BPM bell, and change this to Unify layer. So it's going to load this in. Who knows where you're going to end up once you start doing this. Now, I can open up this Unify layer. If I say CC20, bring up the delay, bring up the reverb, assign that CC20. Any synth patch I load that I assign a knob to, I can assign to a CC. And if I want to make this a little bit more interesting, I could go up here and say, give me another CC writer. Let's have this one click in the graph. Let's have this do a saw down and have it be faster. So we go 1 beat, so it's like an 8th note. Okay. And click right here and say CC21. So it's broadcasting to a different TV network. You know? So now let's go to another library. See where this can go? It can be a rabbit hole like you would not believe. Let's go to another patch. Let's go here to this ARP. And let's go to Unify layer. And let's choose like BPM synth here. And what's fun, because it's a Unify layer, I can open this up and change the patch. That's cool. Let's assign that to CC21. Maybe I want to reverse it, so we could say reverse. Just keep adding to this. There's no limit to how many CC writers sending out on different channels you can set up, controlling parameters of all of your plugins that are loaded into this Unify layer. Let me show you the simple patch, and then we'll do a complex patch to show you the goal is you need to have a Unify layer that the CC writer is talking to. Because if I put a CC writer right here, creative CC writer, it's talking to a sampler, Guru sampler, that doesn't know anything about MIDI CC coming to it. We never programmed this till MIDI learned the knobs. There's no macro knobs or anything like that. So we need a embedded Unify layer to make this work, because then we have all those hooks that we need to plug into. So we could take sound like this. Since it's one layer, right? We can go over here and say move into new embedded Unify layer. I just need to go now here and say creative CC writer. Its default is MIDI CC 20. You can click right here and change to any MIDI CC you want. The default wave shape is just an up and down triangle. You can change curvature, click presets to get calculated or numbered pulses and all sorts of things. Triangle is good for just a typical LFO going up and down. So it's a good place to start. This is the rate. It's always listening to clock. We don't have unclocked. We don't have unsynced LFO capabilities at this point. This is strictly just for following sync of either the internal clock of Unify or the clock of your DAW, okay? So let's set it to half bar. Now go into Unify, this embedded Unify layer, right click on the knob, go assign CC and set to CC20. That's the same number as the CC writer. Remember, I said this is CC20 right there. Well, when I set this knob, it's now going up and down. And now when I go to the link parameters, any parameter I assign, if I go over here to use sampler to filter cutoff, and if I want to be a different shape, if I wanted to not go so high up, we have a system which is really unique, where when you click one of these little dots, it stops modulating so you can hear the value, what it's going to be at that place. So I'm going to go from there. Right? Now, if I want this to change something else, say I had like a distortion. So let's go in here and say noise box, and we set this up to be nicely distorted. Right? I want to play with the mix. I want it to be a little bit more unique, so let's high pass filter it. I think we'll hear when that comes in. So if I go over here and I go linked parameters again, and I go over to the plus, instrument 1, effect. We're going to a totally different effect, to noise box, to the wet dry mix. We can invert it. It could be a totally different parameter set than this filter cutoff up here that's doing a nice sweep. Isn't that cool? You can even go over here and have this be like, go to the load presets. We have all sorts of things like steps. You could say 4 steps. Yeah. Anyway, you get the point. You can have different parameters of different plugins being controlled by the same knob, which is listening to this CC writer. So it's a really, really fun way to work. Now, if the patch is more complex, let's go to something like Zen Love here, which is more than one layer. So if I just say embedded Unify, it's only going to take the OBXD part. So instead, do this. Go right click, say load this whole patch into a new Unify layer. And then you can go over here to the little bullet for the top two that were the originals and say delete and delete. So now I have Zen Love loaded as a Unify layer. So I can now go over here and say CC writer. It's doing it CC20. Follow the steps. So you set up a CC writer to a Unify layer, double click the Unify layer, go to the knobs, find a knob that's doing something interesting. Right click and say, hey, listen to CC20. Now it's working. And I could even go over here to another parameter and say, you also listen to CC20. I could have all of these listening to CC20 if I wanted to. Right? Even the delay could be CC20. Or I could say, unassign this. And let's do this. Let's have some fun. Let's go for MIDI effects. Let's say blue ARP, and let's have it do a chord pattern. Tell both of these to listen to this MIDI effect. So I'll play one note. And let's say we want to have I want that to play. So I could right click and say assign to CC20, but I'm going to over here and I'm going to go to link parameters and I'm going to have it like not show up until the very end. So you can control, even though this CC writer up above is broadcasting this shape, every knob and any parameter assigned to that knob can have its own unique shape as to how it's going to work with that. It could be gradual growing. Right? So it's super, super fun to use. Let me show you another example, and let's do this one using other plugins, because the power of this is that this is a LFO tool that you can tie to multiple plugins. That's something you can't do inside of Serum. You can't have Serum's LFO controlling Zebra, for example. We're going to do that here. So let me show you. We're going to go to the Serum factory patches up to bass. And right here, we're going to start with this bass. Okay, and just like what we did a minute ago when we loaded a patch as a new Unify layer from the factory library, let's right click on this bass and say load into new Unify layer. That brings this patch in, puts it into Unify, and it ties all these knobs to be assigned. So we can go over here and we can say delete the top layer. We only want one Unify layer. And then we go over here and say creative on the MIDI effects, the little yellow plus, click and say creative. There it is. So go to Unify layer. Let's go over here. I want to add a MIDI effect. So we're going to say, give me blue ARP. Right? And I'm going to say, give me just. Right? Make a little BPM bass fun thing to play with. Now go to the knobs, see if there's anything here. That's kind of fun. Now this is the distortion filter, so it kind of distorted sounding. Let's go to the. Now the range of this isn't very wide, so let's go over to this patch. Go to the knob, see what's going on here. So it was assigned to here. Let's make it much wider. I got some range to play with. So, same thing's happening here. So if I go over here and I say assign this to CC20, now if I don't like the shape of this, I want to stay down a little bit longer, go to link parameters. Cool. Now let's go over here to another unified library, like maybe Diva. There's a really, really cool, and you want to change this to say I'm just going to have it load instrument 1 only. And I'm going to go over here. I think there's an FM bass patch. It's really fun. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, give me another blue ARP. And just to start with, I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and click this top blue ARP. And then I'm going to hold down Shift and click the little yellow dot for the lower blue ARP. And I just did a copy, which is Shift Control click, and then Shift click is paste. So I copied the top blue ARP pattern, which you could also get to by going down here and saying copy plugin state. And then you click the little yellow dot again, go to operations, paste plugin state. Same thing, but we have shortcuts. Right? Now I can open up this blue ARP, go to step types. I want to give it a different pattern. And some of these go up an octave. Right? There's a lot of reverb on this Diva patch, right? So let's just go over here. We can get, since it's just a plugin sitting there by itself, that means we have access to every parameter. So go to this knob, say link parameters, go over here to the plus, instrument number 2, Diva. Here's every parameter. If you scroll for a while, you'll get to where you see plate, wet. There. Okay, it wasn't the plate. So let's go over here, replace. This is a way to take an existing parameter and reassign it. Let's go back to here. Say it wasn't plate. There has to be another reverb. Plate. Maybe it's this plate. There it is. There. So I have the reverb now. Maybe I went a little bit at the beginning. It gets really addicting when you start playing with this stuff because you can go all over the place and have all sorts of fun things happen. Let's go over here to the new cutting edge synth bass library I just released. I have some really cool synth basses that are like 64 oscillators because it's lots of layers. I'm going to go over here to the 64 voice monster. Let's do the monopoly. Right click, load this into a new Unify layer because I want to access to the knobs. And I'm going to copy the blue ARP again. Say, go over here, assign blue ARP. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, click the top one, Shift, click. Here we go. And then let's open this blue ARP. Now, I'm going to go over here to the same knob, and I'm going to click right here, go to Instrument, the third layer, and Unify has these knobs set up, including a global filter cutoff right here. So, and I could keep going because Unify has no limit to the number of parameters you can assign to a single knob. So I can go over here, I can go back to Unify. Let's go to the filter cutoff, and I want it to start really resonant and come down. And when it gets to the bottom, I want it to be back at 0, so I'm going to give it a breakpoint. And I like that squelch, so let's get a little bit of that in here. So, as you can see, now, let's get a delay in this, right? Let's maybe go high pass. And I don't want it to sit there all the time just doing all that, right? So let's go over here to the link parameters, and we can go plus. That's layer 3, auxiliary send to bus number 2, right there. And I just get a little bit of splash and delay at the very end. So I have one, get this, one CC writer doing a simple triangle shape is controlling parameters in 3 different plugins and the send of the delay, all assigned on a single knob. Where did I put it? Right here on the second page. The power is just crazy. There's so much you can do. It's really, really fun to play with. So off you go. It's that easy, okay? So CC Writer gives you power to do crazy things with all of your plugins. All right, so I hope this helps. Enjoy. Thank you for your support. See you later.